What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to For the Millie. I am your host, Alex Blickle at AlexBlickle1 on Twitter, joined by my good friends, TwoGun and PropGod. I'll kick it over to you first, TwoGun. How are you feeling about tonight's game, and are you ready for some Thanksgiving football?
I don't know how I feel about tonight's game, but I'm definitely ready for some Thanksgiving football, even if one of the games is Giants-Cowboys.
The games don't exactly look great. We have a channel where we talk about like all the different DVOA articles that we might write and what's interesting about the football games. And one of the topics today was like, how do we write about a slate of this many crappy games? But at least that Green Bay Miami game should be good to close it out. Prop, how you feeling about this game and the week ahead?
When it came to this game, not too excited. It was one of the plays we'll get into. Made my articles for the week from one of my favorite bets. But other than that, grinding some great momentum. I swept Sunday Night Football in the Discord and on a live show. So looking to keep that rolling.
Yeah, well done there. We have two very exciting announcements. First is running a big promo for the holidays. We have this code BKVIP, BK for Black Friday, BKVIP, 25% off the NFL VIP Plus and regular just VIP Plus packages. You can also use promo code BK20 for 20% off any other subscription. So NFL DFS Plus, Bets Plus, whatever you want. BK20 for 20% off of those, or BKVIP for 25% off of either of the VIP subscriptions. And with those, anything with DFS, you will get to use our brand new contest sims that we are releasing this coming week. They're going to be available to start playing with for all subscribers probably tomorrow night at some point, and certainly they will be ready for the NFL slate on Thursday. If you're unfamiliar with contest sims, it's basically just the cheat code for DFS and powered by our industry-leading ownership projections. So contest sims kind of dependent on your ability to predict the actual lineups that your competition is going to play so that you can actually simulate the entire DFS contest, as the name suggests. And we are very well equipped to actually be able to do that and do it well. So super excited to see that. Caleb already has 2 100K hits so far this season, just kind of using the sims as he was building them to kind of test it. So I think they're going to bring a lot of success our way. We already have 600K winners in the community this DFS season with these GPP scores, and now adding the contest sim is going to make us a pretty unstoppable force. So very excited for that. TwoGun, I know you kind of have like the sims in your head a little bit, and you just always like your plays, but how excited are you to use the sims? And do you have a way yet that you're most excited to use them?
I'm definitely excited about it. I'm gonna try to keep an open mind about it before I this is how I'm gonna use it. I guess I'm gonna try to challenge some of my priors when it comes to each slate and say okay, what is this really saying? Try to be figure out what's kind of the appropriate level of contrarian that I need to be with some of these plays. Kind of help identify the good and the bad chalk, and not even necessarily what's the good and the bad chalk in terms of what's gonna make it, but what chalk fading really gives you the chance to win.
I love that answer. I was playing with it earlier today, and one of the things I noticed was Kareem Hunt was simming fairly well for this past week in double stacks with Jaden Daniels, so back to the ownership point, the whole industry had Jaden Daniels as the second most popular quarterback. We had him well under 10%, came in at 4%. We nailed that ownership, and because we knew he was that contrarian, Kareem Hunt lineups were actually simming really well with Jaden Daniels double stacks, and then they were simming horribly in some of the more popular stacks, like with Anthony Richardson. So I love your point about, number one, testing priors, but then also kind of seeing how chalk becomes good chalk or bad chalk based on what else is in the lineup. Prop, I know that you don't play a ton of DFS, but one thing I will say, this is a perfect time to start playing DFS for the first time, because a lot of the things that make DFS difficult, like having to think of correlation and game theory and leveraging this and that and all that good stuff, you don't really have to think about when you have the sims. You just use the optimizer, generate a bunch of lineups, hit that run sims button, and then it'll show you exactly how well those lineups sim. So I would say, whether you planned on it or not, why don't you give Thanksgiving DFS a try. Already one of the most fun slates of the year, and now we're going to have the Sims with us.
Yeah, I could try that, especially if I have a little cheat code. I'm not mad at that at all. I mean, StatSub was already a cheat code, but now we're getting over. So I'll definitely try it.
Speaking of Stats Hub, I know a lot of our picks tonight are based on some of the research from Stats Hub. So I will kick it to you, Prop. Why don't you kick us off with your first pick of the night?
Yes, sir. All right. So this line has moved, but it's going to be Lamar Jackson over on his rushing yards. I'm fine with it up to 50, honestly. I know it hasn't reached 50 yet. What do we have it at on underdog?
45.5, so not too bad.
Okay, so I got it at 40 and a half, so just 4 yards off. Like I said, I like it up to 50. Looking at Lamar, he's crushed his number. I'm just speaking on the 41. He's over in 8 of 11 games this season. He's averaging 53 rushing yards per game. He's cleared this number in 15 of his last 20 games, averaging 56 yards per game. Per Stats Hub, the Chargers have allowed the 4th most scramble yards to quarterbacks this season at 243, and they're giving up the seventh most yards per scramble, so 9 yards per scramble. And we're expecting Lamar to run between 7 to 9 times. Is usually what he does. If he's popping off 9 yards a pop, I mean, I honestly think he's in store for a huge wrestling game tonight. And I was just going based off what I've seen from Joe Burrow the prior week. Then I just pretty much said that the Chargers' inability to contain mobile quarterbacks in the pocket is going to cause trouble in a primetime matchup against Lamar. Lamar in prime time is clear of 41 rushing yards in 13 of his last 16 games, averaging 65 yards per game. So it's like he uses his legs the most when he's on the main stage. So I love Lamar's rushing tonight. And I love him. Actually, I think he can score a touchdown.
I like that. We have a lot of ladder opportunities here with the rushing yards if we want. As you mentioned, that 40.5 number or 39.5 is 0.84x here on underdog. You can take it up to 49.5 for 1.05, up to 59.5 for 1.49, 2.2x, 3.3x, 5.2, and then a big 8.2x if you think he can get to 100 yards. Do you have a favorite here among the ladders?
I would go, I'm thinking 79ish, between 70 and 80.
Nice.
I like that 3.29.
Yeah, I like this one. I also think the 1.49x for 59.5 is really good. I also think with Lamar, we could go to the 15.5 longest rush if we wanted instead. He's been over this in all but 2 games. So basically all these lines seem like they are being brought down because of the matchup, but I'm with you. I'm interpreting this as a very good matchup. We'll talk a little bit more about why when we get to the to my pick, but as you said, it's a great scramble matchup, and sometimes those scramble numbers, we've talked about this before, sometimes the scramble numbers can tell you a little bit about who the team has played and less about how well they actually defend scrambles, things of that nature. But as you said, like Joe Burrow had a huge game. So this is not an instance of they have allowed the 4th highest just because of who they've played. It's because they haven't been the best against scrambles. So I love either one, the over 15.5 longest rush or the 45.5 prop. Since you got him at 40.5, do you want to lean to the longest rush, or are you still just so confident in the 45.5 you just want to start there?
I'm still confident in the 45.5.
Cool. Let's do that then.
Yeah, because even if you go there, he's over in 7 of 11. So he only missed it in one less game than what I had, the 8 out of 11. So
perfect. How about you, TwoGun? You have a favorite off the top?
I'm not as strong on props as you guys are, but I guess I don't know. Maybe I just keep being on this guy too much. As Josh Palmer over 34.5 receiving yards is just so little, and chances are the Chargers gonna have to throw the ball, and there's just a few catches. He's on the field for close to 78% of the snaps. He's kind of part of their wide receiver core. It just seems kind of like maybe an easy one there. And our prop tool loves it. Like our pick 6 tool seems to think he's closer for about 50 yards.
Yeah, this is another one where I definitely agree on the yards, and I also love the longest reception here for Josh Palmer over 18.5. A couple keys there. Baltimore has allowed the 2nd most deep completions in the league. They've allowed the 2nd most deep receiving yards in the league. That's kind of Josh Palmer's role. You can look through Josh Palmer's game logs. He might only catch 1 pass, he might only catch 2 passes, but when he's catching passes, they are down the field. So I love that over 18.5. And the 33.5 looks good to me too. TwoGun, are you interested in any of these ladders? Because what I have noticed, I think there might be more value in the ladders on some of these guys with really low numbers who are like Josh Palmer with the high A.dot roll, who can conceivably catch, a 70-yard touchdown and hit a lot of these in one. So only allowing
like kind of like an MBS type.
Yeah.
Let's see. I hate just going by. He had what? Like looking at his last 5 games, 3 of them were 60 or more yards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what. Yes, I mean, do you really? I mean, it's like just another 10 yards will get you 3x, right?
Yeah.
But we could probably stop there.
63, 72, 63 hasn't cleared that. His longest reception, he's been over that 18.5 in 6 of 9 games. Let's see, the 33.
I kind of feel like the way you would do this is kind of how Prop was talking about, how you have like a base number and then you kind of keep going down a little bit. But I guess that doesn't work for underdog. That only works for like when you're actually betting a prop.
Well, I mean, it works for underdog too. You just have to have some other plays that you really like and kind of build around it. Do a bunch of different 3-pick plays with it, something like that. But yeah, I think he's been over 33.5 6 of 9 times. He's been over 18.5 longest reception 6 of 9 times. So once again, we'll just go with the yards here. I think you can play either one. I will note for anybody who is betting kind of big bucks here on underdog, it does seem like they have lower limits on the longest yardage props rather than the actual like receiving yards, things of that nature, where they, at least I've noticed, I'm limited to like $500 total on any of these longest reception, longest rush props, whereas I can get more down on the receiving yards. So if you need a reason to go to yardage instead of the longest,
I think I'm limited like $25.
Say that again.
Limited like $25.
Yeah, they got you right away. So
yeah.
Luckily, I'm not TwoGun in that regard. Let's see. All right, my next pick, I'm going to go to Derrick Henry, and we're going to go to this longest rush. We're going to go to 17.5 yards for Derrick Henry's longest rush. As I said, is it gone? Did I miss it? Let's refresh this and see if it has come back. So Henry is over this in all but 2 games, just like Lamar Jackson is in his longest rush. And as we said, the Chargers not that great of not nearly the bad rushing matchup as people think. 4th most explosive rushes against them, or the 4th highest explosive rush percentage against them. They're also 20th in adjusted line yards allowed. I think the reason why people are interpreting this as a bad matchup is because they haven't given up a lot of rushing yards. I believe they're 10th in rushing yards allowed. The reason, though, is because they keep being in game scripts where it makes it difficult for opponents to actually run against them. We don't expect that to happen here against Baltimore. So this over 17.5 longest rush seems great to me, and you can ladder this one up as well. Derrick Henry has been over a lot of these quite often. So honestly, I'm good with every single one of these. Prop, what do you think of these longest rushes for him?
I love it. This market, we've been crushing it. Thanks to Stats Hub. I mean, they're probably going to end up. I don't know what they'll do to try to stop us, but it's been a wagon. So I love it.
Something's coming. Yeah, I'm agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's the nice thing about pick 6 though, is they they don't limit you because you're technically playing against other people. It's basically they play against other people, and they kind of have some guarantees so that you don't get if everyone splits the pot.
You know what we need to do, TwoGun? We gotta talk to our DraftKings contacts and get them to add some of these longest rush, longest reception, longest completion props for us.
Right. I think it's with that it's a little delicate thing because they don't want to have things that some people use and then other people don't touch it at all. But then again, why they have those defensive IDP stuff? It's probably better if they just put the long, like they just keep it to offensive players and they add that next time we talk to them. But I think right now their focus is, I'm sure, on NBA. That season.
I also think in that regard, it would be helpful for them just to have more props, because then you are getting lower like max percentages on any one given prop. And so that's going to change the percentage of 6 for 6s or 3 for 3s a lot less. It's going to make it a lot less volatile. So I think that would actually help them.
Right. It'll smooth out the number of people that get it right.
Yeah. So reminder there, use promo code FTN when you are signing up for Pick 6. They have raised their minimum payout on 6-pick plays for NBA is up to 25x. So that's what you guarantee to get on NBA for a 6-pick play is the minimum that you could get over on pick 6. They don't have as many props, so it's sometimes harder to actually find 6. But when you find 6 that you like, make sure you are playing over there on pick 6. Promo code FTN for both pick 6 and underdog if you're not on these yet. Prop, we have a question here. Talk me out of betting house on J.K. Dobbins over 12.5 carries. What is your thought on this prop here?
So I saw that comment. Looking at Dobbins, I do love the fact that Roquan Smith is going to be out tonight, so I think that helps as far as the ground attack for the Chargers. We know the Chargers' identity is to run the football first. Dobbins had 11 carries against the Bengals, but I'm not mad at it over there. I do know that Gus Johnson has been back and he's got at least 6 carries and back-to-back games since coming back.
Gus Edwards.
I'm sorry, did I say Gus Johnson?
The fantastic announcer, yeah.
Yeah, he's so great at his job that I said his name. But yeah, I'm not mad at the Dobbins line, but I do feel like it's a bit sharp with Edwards being back, especially with this being Edwards' 3rd week back, and it's kind of a revenge spot for both of these running backs, right? Both former Ravens. We got a lot of little narratives going on in this one, so I just think it's sharp. I wouldn't say take the under though, but I wasn't too excited to take the over either. Now, if it was like 11.5 or something, I think that 1 carry could make a difference. Like just my experience with betting on carry props, it raises my anxiety so much. So I hate those odd numbers to 12.5s and 14.5, things like that. Things
we
like
are
that.
getting 1.07x for that over 12.5, which puts it a little bit in play for me. But I'm with you. I don't love either direction. I think if you want to take advantage of no Roquan Smith, if you think that's really going to play a huge role here, 12.5 is awfully low for longest rush for a guy with Dobbins' explosion. So I think you could just go to that one too.
Oh yeah, he's been crushing that number too. I see it right now.
Yeah,
7 out of 10.
Yep. Yes, I think I like that one more than the 12.5 carries. And the other thing there is like it's very, very possible. I mean, Baltimore has been a pass funnel all season. So there's also a chance they want to run the ball and Roquan Smith is out, but they still might just have more success through the air. So going for the explosive runs instead of the sustained runs, I think makes a lot of sense there. We'll also talk about some of these Charger receivers.
Also,
where you want to go next?
For the person in the comments, if you can get that line on FanDuel, I would take it there. J.K. Dobbins, if you bump, they have it at 11.5. The longest rush, he's over in 9 out of 10 games. The only game he missed was against the Cardinals, and he had an 11-yard rush. So that 11.5 for the longest rush is minus 122, very playable. That's been a wagon. So I might bet that too.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that suggestion, Alex. I think I want to bet that.
Do you want to add that to the slip here, or do you have another pick that you like more?
So I got a couple other things I want to talk through because I had so much time today. School's out, didn't have to move around too much. Now, I'm looking at Justice Hill, right? The Chargers, you can be attacked in the passing game to running backs. So I was looking at him. I didn't know if I want to go over his reception. Oh, not the receptions. Actually, it's the longest reception. So Justice Hill, longest reception is sitting at 11.5. I'm seeing, I see a 10.5 somewhere, but yeah, 11.5. He's over in 7 out of 11 games. So I like that because I feel like you can attack the Chargers with the running backs. I'm not really trusting the Ravens receivers too much, honestly. I don't know what's going on with Deontay Johnson. And then if you're looking at the longest reception to the running backs, they have allowed a running back to go over in 3 out of the last 4 weeks, the Chargers. So I like for Justice Hill to get involved tonight.
And what is going on, Deontay Johnson?
Man, it blows me.
It's like we can't be like he's not familiar with the offense. He's been there a damn month now. What's going on?
He's had opportunities, and it seems like if Lamar misses early, then Deontay just sulks the rest of the game. It's very strange. Yeah. I don't know what's going on either. I thought for sure that he would be a little bit more focused and ready to kind of make Mike Tomlin pay for his words, and he did nothing but prove Mike Tomlin 100% correct. So Yeah, I don't know what's going on either. I will say, I'll just go right into my next pick here, Rashad Bateman.
Oh, but I wasn't sure though. I want to talk between that one and another one.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you talk to the next one then?
Will Dissly over the receiving yards. Tight ends have been getting at the Ravens all season. We've seen Dissly continue to get more involved. We saw the coaches come out and speak about it last week, and he had his best game of the season, including scoring a touchdown. I think the 42.5 is too low. Me personally, I got it at 40 plus on FanDuel, but I think he's in another great spot tonight. And these Charger pass catchers like Johnston, I'm still not a believer. I know he's been better, but I love the look with TwoGun because I have some action with Palmer, but I think Dissly, especially with McConkey dealing with a shoulder injury. I mean, McConkey's been on the injury report for like the last 4 weeks.
Yep.
So it takes one wrong movement or one bad hit, and then he could be done for the game, especially with a shoulder injury. So I'm loving Dissly in this spot. If I had to choose between him and the longest reception, that's what I want to see what you guys thought. The Dissly over the 42.5 receiving yards or Hill with the longest reception over. That's kind of I'm playing both. But I was stuck on what we should do for the play.
So Baltimore, as you mentioned, great matchup for tight ends. In the DVOA adjusted fantasy points against data, we have them at plus 24% to tight ends. So I do like the matchup quite a bit for Dissly, but I'd also say these numbers have really come up for him compared to, like, think about where we got him. What was it, last week or maybe 2 games ago, where we were all on Dissly based on the matchup with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
these numbers have all come up considerably, and that matchup with Cincinnati was even better, plus 40% to opposing tight ends. So I think I lean Justice Hill. What do you think, TwoGun?
Oh man, are we talking about like these low price players, or sorry,
just between taking Will Dissly over the receiving yards or Justice Hill over his longest reception.
I'd probably go with Dissly.
Okay. So Dissly over 18.5.
I just don't understand how any of these Ravens pass catchers are used. Like, I know Bateman and Flowers and Andrews, kind of. Otherwise, it's just like, you know?
Yep, that's fair. However, I am going to make my next pick, Rashad.
Oh, it was Dissly receiving yards too, not the longest reception.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
It was Justice Hill with the longest reception.
Yep.
So yeah, Dissly over 44.5 receiving yards. All right, so now we're going to go to Rashad Bateman here. And we're going over 38.5 receiving yards. Reason for this, the Chargers play the second most too high. They play the third most zone in the league. Rashad Bateman leads the team in yards per route run against both too high and zone coverage. His yards per route run doubles from man coverage to zone coverage, and also doubles going from single high to too high. You wouldn't really expect it. A down the field speed guy typically really excels against man coverage and against single high, but for whatever reason, he really thrives against zone. And I think part of that is he seems to be the guy that Lamar looks and finds when he escapes the pocket and things of that nature. And a lot of the time when you're going up against zone coverage, that's when you have your eyes back on the quarterback and can do a better job of just finding the open space to help your quarterback. So that's where Bateman really seems to thrive. 38.5 just seems way too low, given the fact that he's averaging like 2.5 yards per out run against both zone and too high coverages. It's going to be running around 30 routes. So this 38.5 number, way too low. And I also think this is one that we can very aggressively ladder: the 59.5, the 69.5, 79.5. I wish it would go all the way to like 100 and we can get, 13X or something like that. I'll be on the lookout to see if they add any more. But for now, I'm good with just the 38.5 receiving yards for Bateman.
I'm gonna trust you here because I've been burned by these guys a couple times. So
it happens.
Yeah,
it definitely happens.
I got him on my fantasy team too. I ended up picking up Bateman and Johnson, and I was about to drop them both. If I had to keep any one of them, it would be Bateman though, because for the reasons you said, it's just about him. He can have so many more yards. How many drops does he have this season? So
yeah, he's got a number of them.
Yeah, but I'm not mad at the Bateman look for this one.
Yeah, it's a shame that they only have touchdowns here for Deontay, because I also think there's a chance that, given the fact that basically every other receiving option on the team is worse against zone and against too high, that maybe he would find a role today. But there's just enough uncertainty that I would have been interested in the top edge of the ladder or something like that, and not necessarily taking any baseline picks for Deontay, but nothing here. So TwoGun, do you have a 6th pick for us, or should we just use that Justin Hill pick from Prop?
No, I don't think I have a 6 pick.
Let's just go to Justice Hill then, because I like that one quite a bit. So here we go. Official 6-pick play for the Millie. We have, over 11.5 yards longest reception for Justice Hill, over 38.5 receiving yards for Bateman, over 44.5 receiving yards for Disley, 17.5 longest rush for Derrick Henry, over 33.5 receiving yards for Josh Palmer, and over 45.5 rushing yards for Lamar Jackson. That pays 25x here on Underdog. Sign up with promo code FTN. And
I'm looking real quick. Make sure I got everything right.
A comment in here about giving our boy Prop respect. 100% agree with this. Prop has been fantastic. So shout out to you, PropGod, both here on For the Millie and everything you're doing in Discord with people. So appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate the love for sure. Always appreciate it.
Anything you want to add here, Prop? It sounded like maybe you had another one you wanted to look
No,
at.
I was just trying to make sure. I'm entering in on Underdog right now, so I was just making sure I got everything right.
Gotcha. Navari asking 6.5 for Nelson Aguilar. So here's the thing with Aguilar. Like, I think that's probably solid, but the big giant question mark around Deontay Johnson is also therefore a big giant question mark around Nelson Aguilar. You add in the fact that Isaiah Likely is back as well, so it's easier for Aguilar to be off the field now because there are two guys who could be playing ahead of him. It makes me very uneasy on this 6.5. This is one where if I'm playing it, I'm playing for like the one big reception. Give me over 29.5 for 3.2x well before I'm playing the baseline 6.5. But I also have others that I like the ladders on more, so I'm probably not going to touch Aguilar, but I don't dislike it by any means. Any thoughts there, Prop?
No, with Aguilar, it's if he catches a pass, it's going to be probably 10 or more yards. So, I'm not mad at it. It's just hard for me to cap him. I don't think I've ever bet on Aguilar in my betting career either. So,
sometimes you just don't need to mess with a 6.5. Where it's like it's you get one catch. It's like,
it seems more like a coin flip and more like even if you're on the correct side of it, it's going to be 55-45 instead of 60-40 or 65-35. So it's a lot harder to find that actual significant edge because there's not really a difference between like 6.5 or 4.5. If he catches a pass, he's probably going over both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is more just like, does he catch a pass? And I don't know what the answer to that question is. It's also like, is he playing a lot of the game or is he on the sidelines? And it's whenever that's the question, unless you have an actual strong feeling about it, it becomes a very difficult thing to answer. We got a request to repeat the 6 leg again, so I'll go through it one more time. Lamar Jackson, over 45.5 rushing yards. Josh Palmer, over 33.5 receiving yards. Derrick Henry, over 17.5 longest rush. Will Disley, over 44.5 receiving yards. Rashad Bateman, over 38.5 receiving yards. And Justice Hill, over 11.5 longest reception. A reminder, even though we are live, you can pause this right now if you feel like you need to go a little bit slower to make sure you get all 6 of those correct. You can also, once we are done, just go back and find anything that we talked about. You can go watch the whole thing through.
I want to ask you something real quick. Are you playing this as a standard or a flex?
On 6-pick plays, you have to play it as a flex. You can see here, like the flex here, 25x. It gives you all the payouts.
Okay.
I can't click standard. Anytime you can go standard, the math says you pretty much should. The only exception is on a 4-pick play. A flex is actually slightly better than the standard, but it's very close, and it's basically equivalent to a 3-pick. So here at FTN, we pretty much preach on Underdog 3-pick plays, 6-pick plays, and 8-pick plays just for fun. But 3 picks and 6 picks, those are kind of the sweet spots. It's where the math is most in your favor. Another way of thinking about it is it's where, in order to be profitable, you have to have the lowest win percentage. So to be profitable on 3-pick plays, you just have to hit 55% of them if you are doing the standard 6x payout. And on these 6-pick plays, you only have to be right 53.8% of the time to profit on the 6-pick plays. Over the last year or so, Zach and I in NBA here on Underdog are hitting it like 60 to 61%. So you can see how big of an edge we actually have here on Underdog if we are playing it the right way. So it's why we have been so successful here. And here in the NFL streets, ever since we started jumping on these longest longest plays props, we have been hitting it at that rate, if not even higher. So
Yeah, we're
also
due for a
exciting
sweep.
news
We've been
there.
right there. We've been missing by like one.
Yeah. We're actually developing a pick tracker for these pick'em games. Underdog specifically, we might add one for pick 6 as well. So you'll be able to tail every single play we make. You'll be able to see exactly how we've done on every single type of play, 3 pick plays by every single sport individually and by each analyst that ends up putting in all of their picks on the tracker. So I don't know exactly when that's going to go live. I'm hoping it will be live by these Thursday NFL games. So more exciting news, lots of exciting news on the way, as you guys can tell. But let's jump over to Showdown, unless either of you have some closing thoughts here on the pick'em games.
Nope.
Cool. I will bring up my article from earlier today, and we can take a look at some of this data. I will say this is one of the most interesting breakdowns of the optimal team level numbers, because most of the time, here you can see on screen here, most of the time when we're looking at this optimal data, we see a trend throughout, right? So if Baltimore is really optimal as a 5-1, then they also look great as a 4-2, and then 3-3 looks pretty good or maybe slightly better, and then it starts dropping off at 2-4. But here we have 4-2 considerably worse than both the 3-3 stack and the 5-1 Baltimore onslaught. So I thought that really stood out to me. What do you make of that, TwoGun?
I try not to make too much of that. I will say what sticks out to me is don't go 5-1 Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like, even if you think the Chargers are going to win this game, just quit it. Like still, you're probably going to want to use Lamar and one of his pass catchers or someone else on the team. Other than that, I try not to overthink it too much.
There are two things that I thought in regard to this that I thought actually made a lot of sense, where the first is, if the Chargers have success based on how much of a pass funnel Baltimore has been, it's likely because Herbert is throwing the ball well. And if he's throwing the ball well, he spreads it around so much that it's unlikely that only one of his pass catchers is going to be optimal. So either it's 3 or 4 Chargers that you want, or the Chargers don't have a lot of success and it's 1. So I think that's kind of the story that it's telling. And as far as these 5-1 builds go, because 5-1 Baltimore will be probably the 4th most popular build type tonight, where 3-3 will be the most popular. I'm guessing 4-2 Baltimore will be 2nd most popular, then 4-2 Chargers, then 5-1 Ravens. So I think this 5-1 Ravens onslaught will have a lot of leverage. And if you are building that way, then it's very interesting that here in the captain optimal data, also very heavy on Derrick Henry, who I'm guessing, TwoGun, you agree, is the optimal Baltimore captain in a 5-1 stack.
Oh, without a doubt. Because if they're beating up on them, they're just pounding them down. And I think that's kind of the point with the 5-1 Ravens, is like, because Baltimore spreads it around so much, there's just a good chance that none of them are that good if they're losing by like 10 points or more.
Mm-hmm.
And so
this is a bit of a tougher slate to kind of anticipate what the chalk build will be, but why don't we attempt to do exactly that? So PropGod, I think Lamar is our projected highest owned captain, potentially around 30%, maybe even like 40% in single entries. So if we're clicking Lamar Jackson first in the captain spot, what do you think the next click that people make will be?
After Lamar,
it's not an easy answer, right? Like there are 100 different places that people could go.
If we're going with a Charger, I want to go with Disley.
I think he'll be fairly popular. I also think we can just simplify it and say, if people are building with a Lamar captain and they want to see points scored, there are so many Chargers that could be the answer. McConkey, Johnston, Josh Palmer, Will Disley. Maybe it's just Justin Herbert that people click next.
I honestly like Herbert as a captain over Lamar.
Interesting. Okay, let's do that. Let's build something there with Herbert, because I think he doesn't have the rushing upside. And whenever we see quarterback with rushing upside on showdowns, he tends to get a ton of captain ownership, and the quarterback that doesn't have that rushing upside doesn't. And you brought it up earlier, right? Justin Herbert has been running a little bit more. You can see games of 49, 32, and 65 rushing yards in his last 4. So I shouldn't say we're getting no rushing upside. So I like this. Let's see what a Herbert captain lineup looks like. So if we've got Herbert in here, it sounds like you want to pair him with Disley. And then do we want one more receiving option from the Chargers or 2?
Or McConkey.
Yeah,
McConkey a lot.
I think there's room here to also go Johnston or Josh Palmer. Do you guys have a preference?
Palmer. His TwoGun like Palmer.
Yeah, we are classifying Quentin Johnston as the wide receiver 1. So let me bring up the DVOA data again.
Oh, is Johnson cheaper?
No, I think he's more expensive. Johnson 7,400 and Josh Palmer way down at 5,200. I just want to show real quick the DVOA adjusted fantasy points against steady. You can see 57%.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the only thing is, let's remember, so much of this is coming from Jamar Chase combining for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns or something in the 2 games he's played against Baltimore. So I do think it's bona fide wide receiver 1s that are killing Baltimore, not the Quinn Johnston versus Josh Palmer versus Ladd McConkey distinction. So I think the way that I'm viewing this is it's a pretty equivalent boost for all of the pass catchers. I just think this is a good matchup for all of the pass catchers, but I don't think it's particularly fantastic for one and then only slightly good for others. Would you agree with that, Reed Prop?
Yeah, and that's what makes it tough. I would fade the secondary with any receiving core, with any receiving option. So
yeah. So let's go Josh Palmer in large part just because it saves us some money. So now maybe from here we can go with Lamar and one of his guys. TwoGun, do you have any other guys or any other thoughts here of how you'd want to pick the Baltimore options from this start of?
I just feel like if it's a chalk build, then we got to go with Lamar at captain, but we got to keep Herbert in there, and it's just going to mess with the salary some. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, let's instead of trying to build the chalk build, because I honestly I kind of led with this, but it's hard to build the chalk build because other than Lamar captain, Herbert flex, I don't think there's anything like super predictable about what people are going to do. As we're kind of talking through this, there are so many attractive options on either side that I just think that we're kind of going to see a mix of everybody. And it's not that one flex option is going to be significantly more popular than the other. So outside of that Lamar captain, Herbert flex start, I don't really know how we could then kind of fill in what is the chalk build beyond those two. So this is just kind of like, what would we like to do with the Herbert stack? One thing I'm curious about is if we brought McConkey down to Johnston, could we fit Lamar and Bateman? We cannot. We could do Lamar and likely.
Herbert stack, I kind of want to have. I don't think I want to have 3 pass catchers. I think I want to have 2 pass catchers.
Okay.
And either have 3 Ravens or, use even the Chargers defense.
Okay. I took Josh Palmer out then since we went to Disley and McConkey first. I also think when you are condensing the number of pass catchers that you are using with a quarterback captain, you want to make sure that one of those guys can actually hog all the targets, and Ladd McConkey certainly fits that role. So I want to keep him in there. So, all right, what's up next? We want to go to Lamar.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have 4,000 for the next 2 guys. So there are a couple options here. We could do Isaiah Likely and the Chargers. We could go to Justice Hill, and now we get our choice between Tucker.
Can you switch it back to the screen you're making lineup on?
Say that again, TwoGun.
We're on the DVOA data. I was just wondering if we can go back to the screen where the.
Oh, my fault. Yeah, good call. Thank you for that. So here we have Herbert, Disley, Ladd McConkey, then Lamar Jackson. Now we are left with $4,000. Lots of Baltimore guys in this range. We've got Tucker, 48, Andrews likely. We were talking about Justice Hill earlier on the props side of things. So if we put in Justice Hill,
Andrews is.
Yeah, we have our choice here between Tucker, Andrews, and likely. Do you have a lean there, Prop?
Oh man, I think I would go with Andrews, but I could be biased as I need him in fantasy tonight.
Yeah, that's what I would go with as well.
Yeah.
Go another pass catcher, and
Mm-hmm.
you really don't want to use a kicker when you have the quarterback in there. Like Lamar can still get there with his rushing, but
I want to check.
Tucker's been struggling, so.
Mm-hmm. I want to check our ownership projections here for some of these flex guys. So let me actually bring up this tab instead now. Flex. Let's sort by salary. We already have. Cool. So we can see Justin Tucker 19%, and Andrew's actually the most popular in this range at 30%. So maybe we could even leverage Andrews by going to Isaiah Likely, who obviously running a ton of routes is a big part of this passing offense. Also, probably the more likely of the two to totally disappear, where maybe he's not even getting as many snaps if we do see more Deontay or Nelson Aguilar tonight. So let's see what else we have. 24% for Justice Hill. I do think it's worth mentioning. We have a 3.45% flex ownership projection on Deontay Johnson. Basically, the entire field just assuming he's going to continue to be completely invisible out there. Prop. How do you feel about taking a risk on Deontay?
I would not be taking that risk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too at this point. Like,
I'll tell you how I think I feel about it. I want no part of it unless I'm going Lamar Jackson captain, because Lamar is going to be the most popular captain. So if you are leaning into the chalk at captain, I think you want to maybe figure out a way to get different within your overall lineup while also correlating well with that Lamar captain decision. And the only real option there is Deontay Johnson. You can make a case for Isaiah Likely kind of filling the exact same purpose, but it's not going to shock me if we actually see Deontay like have a good game. One of the ways I like to think about this sort of thing is how would different outcomes in the first quarter change my belief for what's going to happen in the rest of the game. If Deontay catches no passes in the first quarter, I'm going to continue to have this belief that he's not going to catch any passes for the next three. But if he caught 3 passes in the first quarter and was out on the field pretty consistently, I would suddenly feel really good about his chances to get to like 7 or 8 receptions in the game and totally break the slate. So just an interesting way to kind of think through that and how the Deontay the Deontay flex with the Lamar captain decision does make some sense to me. Let's see, what else do we want to build here? Let's talk about what a Derrick Henry captain lineup looks like, since we kind of already talked through how intriguing that is. So if we're going with 5 Ravens, I'll start with you, Prop, here. Do you have a lean on which Charger you would want to take?
If we're starting with 5 Ravens, and we can't have Herbert.
We probably don't want Herbert, just because it'd be tough for Herbert to get there without any of his pass catchers also being optimal.
Okay.
So like I think different ways you can approach this. You can say, well, maybe they only score 1 touchdown and I just want that touchdown. And so maybe that's coming on the ground with J.K. Dobbins. So you can do something like that. In last night's game, until the Rams scored late, it looked like there was going to be a very real chance that 5-1 Eagle stacks were going to be optimal with Kyron Williams as the lone bring back. So you can see instances like that where maybe it would be Dobbins. Could also definitely be tucked into Ladd McConkey here again. Like maybe he just racks up a bunch of PPR points, 8 receptions, 80 yards, something like that. Disley could work in the same way. So do you have a favorite?
I honestly would go between Disley and Johnston.
Okay.
Because I think Johnston has the touchdown upside.
Yeah.
McConkey, I'm scared of her injury.
Okay. That makes sense. Let's start Disley for the $1,000 savings, and if we end up with no need for those savings, we can upgrade to Quentin Johnston.
Okay.
TwoGun, I'll kick it to you here. Derrick Henry captain. Are we still clicking Lamar Jackson?
Yep.
I want to shout out to Shazam real quick from the NFL Discord. He did some cool research. Obviously a small sample, but just kind of looked through all of the games this year to see when Derrick Henry has hit, what has Lamar Jackson done, and then conversely, when Lamar Jackson has really hit, what has Derrick Henry done? And he found that there have been times where Lamar really hit where Derrick Henry did not. So in Lamar captain lineups, you can definitely fade Derrick Henry. I would almost advise that you do so. But when Henry has hit, Lamar has still hit. And I think part of that really comes down to this idea that like when Derrick Henry is running the ball really well, what does that do to a defense? It makes them try and react instantaneously to wherever Derrick Henry's going, beat him to the edge, things of that nature. And when they get really aggressive in that way, and Lamar keeps the ball, now Lamar is breaking off chunk gains. So also a reason to like the longest rush props together for both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, just to kind of bring that back to the underdog streets and the sportsbook streets, just player props. But so I like pairing Henry with Lamar. Now we're going to need some savings, only $5,400 left per these last three spots. Any interest in kickers or defenses here, TwoGun?
Again, it really depends on the lineup.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this line, with the
lineup again. I need to look at and a Derrick Henry captain.
Yeah, Derrick Henry with Disley and Lamar Jackson.
And this is a 5-1, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Honestly, I would fill out the rest of the lineup first.
Okay.
How else do we want to do Ravens defense? We probably want to have one pass catcher, right? So it's a question of
my lean is Bateman just because of the splits that I was talking about earlier.
All right.
And now we have 55. So now we could go back up and then pay way down, or we can just kind of live in this range here with like a Josh Palmer and Dicker and leave some money, or Tucker and Andrews, something like that. So maybe we then actually go up from Disley to McConkey, whatever we wanted to do. So lots of options.
Right. I just feel like you're trying to force the 5-1 before you kind of did the rest of the lineup. I feel like generally with 5-1, you're going to be using your defenses and kickers a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably just put Ravens defense and Justin Tucker. Call it there.
I like that. And for those watching, one of the reasons why that is the case is because a lot of the time it's hard for an offense to support 4 skill position players, even if you have the quarterback and you're expecting them to kind of win big. So getting a kicker who's going to benefit from all of that yardage that doesn't turn into touchdowns, or a defense that's helping get sacks and creating turnovers and getting the ball back to your offense can really help. So, here we have $2,200 left on the table. We wouldn't necessarily advise that, but you can of course make a 1v1 or a 2v2 change in anything here. So lots of different options that we have for Showdown tonight. I think it's a pretty fun Showdown slate, one of the more fun that we've had this season. Dicker is a monster. He has been quite good. What is with kickers in the NFL either making every 60-yarder right down the middle or hooking every 30-yarder when the team needs it?
Man,
a strange kicker.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Especially the Commanders guy. He missed two extra points yesterday.
Yeah. Including the one I had a Jaden Daniels double stack with McLaurin, Ertz, and CeeDee Lamb. So number one, can't run any better than the 80-yard touchdown, like as time is nearly expiring to get him the 100-yard bonus to get Jaden Daniels almost there. But then running so bad because they missed the extra point, and now I don't get the advantage of overtime. So that was a wild finish to that game. And my uncles and cousins are big Commanders fans, and they were
I know that's tough.
No idea how to react. That was a wild one. Question: why wouldn't you go with Chargers defense right now? In what lineup here? What would we want?
I think they're talking about the last one when we're doing a 5-1.
Well, you wouldn't want the Chargers defense with a Baltimore 5-1 stack. You would maybe want the Chargers defense if you're expecting the Baltimore offense to underperform, unless that was supposed to be the Baltimore defense. Any other thoughts here, PropGod, on this showdown?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything as far as the showdown. Nothing else that I want to add. And
will you be live at 7 tonight?
East 7 Central. Well, no. 6:15 Central, so 7:15 Eastern. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we will see you guys then. Reminder one more time. I will get this promo back up on the screen if I can find it. We have way too many things in here. Black Friday sale Promo code BKVIP, 25% off either of the VIP subscriptions, NFL VIP Plus or just the standard VIP Plus. Tune in to Trenches with PropGod at 7:15 Eastern. And reminder, we will be breaking out the contest sims this coming week. So never a better time to use that promo code, not just because you get everything that we're already offering, but also you will be able to try out these contest sims as part of any DFS subscription, which includes the VIP subscriptions for the rest of the regular season at the bare minimum before prices will increase on that. So get in while you can. We will catch you next time. We will be back Wednesday for this show. I don't believe Prop will be able to join us. It'll be just TwoGun and myself. Still tune in for that one. And I will do the matchups show tomorrow night instead of the typical Wednesday, since we have that Wednesday show. 5:30 Eastern. We will see you then.